guys, it's Silver, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about trauma. Trauma is this central aspect to DID and OSDD. You hear constantly that DID and OSDD is caused by severe trauma in early childhood, and it's repetitive, and it's what this entire disorder is structured off of. And while it is true that DID and OSDD is a trauma-based disorder, the fact that this narrative is constantly repeated has had some weird side effects in people's perceptions of the disorder and what it means to have it in relation to trauma. Specifically, and what I'm going to talk about today, is this perception within the community that to have DID or OSDD, you have to know what your trauma was that caused it, when it happened, and what exactly it was. Or at the very least, have some vague notion of what happened to cause DID in you. And I want to say straight off the bat that this isn't true. As an individual with DID or OSDD, you don't need to know what happened to cause DID or OSDD to be valid. I hear over and over people saying, how do I know if I really have DID if I don't remember my trauma? And my message to you guys is that you don't need to know. This disorder is built to confuse us, obscure our memories, and make us forget what happened to protect us from what happened back at that young age. The nature of DID is that you don't remember your trauma. That's why alters exist, that's why repressed memories exist, and that's why so many people don't remember what happened to them. You can still be totally valid in having DID or OSDD even if you have no idea what happened to you before the ages of 6 to 9. We fall into this category too. We have no memory of any early childhood. It's just a big giant blank slate. Totally gone. And that's totally okay. We are still diagnosed, we're still valid, we're still here, we still have alters. We don't need to know what happened to exist. Even when someone has no explicit memory of what happened back in childhood that constitutes trauma, there's still signs and symptoms and kind of ways to tell that there's something up and going on, even if you don't have that explicit memory in your possession to look back at and point at to be like, that's what happened. To further protect the individual, memory can be stored and processed in ways that's not directly explicit like our day-to-day memories. There's things called body memories, where certain aspects of your body might feel pain, or might feel heavy or dead or weird when certain things come up, but you have no actual memory of what happened. Your body is re-experiencing the event for you. You can also have flashbacks, and then after you come out of the flashback, instantly forget everything that happened during the flashback and forget what the flashback was actually about. Dissociation in and of itself is a huge symptom of trauma. There's also a whole bunch of other just casual symptoms and behavioral signs that can point towards trauma that manifest within people and can point towards something happening during that period of your time without any direct memory. And furthermore, these little signs and symptoms that can point you towards that sometimes don't even show up for years. It took years and years of therapy and getting out of bad environments for us to start experiencing things like this that pointed us towards the direction that something might have happened during those years. So even if you don't have any memories and you're not experiencing any of these things, you are still valid as a DID or OSDD system. Furthermore, and my final point here is that within the DSM diagnostic criteria, there is no criteria that says you need to know what happened to you to be diagnosed with DID or OSDD. While it is the leading theory that trauma is the cause of DID, nowhere in the DSM diagnostic criteria does it state that you have to know X trauma occurred to have DID. Or you don't even have to know that trauma occurred to have DID, as it's the nature of the disorder to make people forget. Even in the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation has multiple stages when it comes to the treatment of DID or OSDD. And the whole first stage doesn't even deal with any trauma and doesn't expect you to know any trauma. It's all about stabilization, learning about other alters, and communicating with your system for the first time. The second stage is when you actually try to work with any trauma memories you have, or unearth ones, or try to put some pieces together. So, all in all, if you are a system that doesn't have any memories of early trauma, or you know a system that doesn't have any memories of early trauma, that system, whoever you are valid. You don't need to know everything to be valid, you don't need to know the exact symptoms or the exact what happened to be valid, and I know there's a whole bunch of fear around this in the community, so I just want to reach out to you guys and say, I totally understand. For systems out there like us who know that something happened and you might have a couple symptoms cropping up, and are really struggling with dissociation but you have no explicit memory of what happened, I just want to say that I get you. It's really hard to be in a situation where you have a disorder that's so highly stigmatized, and it comes from severe trauma in childhood, and everyone knows that. And you'll be faced with a lot of people who you meet who will say to you things like, I don't believe you, or prove it, or what happened to you to cause this? And even though we know that those comments are harmful and hurtful and we shouldn't listen to them, sometimes it can sink in this feeling that we should have something to prove our existence as alters, as systems, and that we should have something to say, look, this is what happened, now you can believe me. And it's so frustrating to be at a position within stigma and ableist folks and not knowing yourself, to sit there and be like, I don't know what happened, I'm missing all these memories of my childhood, and I don't have anything to prove to you. Even if I wanted to disclose all my trauma to you, which I shouldn't have to do in the first place to prove my disorder, even if I wanted to, I couldn't. And that's a really rough thing to deal with, and we've been there. Trauma is complicated, dissociation is complicated, DID is complicated, and we're here for you. You're just as valid the way you are. You don't need to go searching through your mind or your memory or put together some tiny pieces to cobble together proof to yourself or someone else to prove your validity that you exist. We believe you. We're here for you. You do exist the way you do. And in time, it'll all make sense. The longer you're in therapy, the longer you get to know your system, the longer you work together as an internal team, the more pieces will come together, and the easier it will be to see everything from an external perspective. So if you can, just hang on there, hold tight, and it'll all make sense in the future. Knowing is not a requirement for having DID, because this disorder is meant to make us forget. We love you so much, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.